Okay, so what we're doing is order of operations. So order of our operations is PEMDAS. So parentheses first, which there's nothing inside the parentheses for us to do, right? There's no exponents. Technically, there is a multiplication there. Okay, where is that? Yeah. Okay, a -1 right next to the parentheses. Okay, so when there's two negatives next to each other, um, it's like going to -1 times a -6.1. So a negative times a negative is going to change that to a positive. So now we're at this, and now you can draft the parentheses. And I can write my 4 a little bit better. Okay, so we've done the multiplication. There is no division. So now we just go add and subtract left to right. Okay, so the first two we've got is a -7.4 and a +6.1. So the signs are different, so we're subtracting. And we take the sign of the larger number. So 7.4 and 6.1, we're subtracting. Oh, nice subtraction. I don't know how it works. Okay, so a -1.3. Okay, so now my signs are different again, so I'm subtracting, but this time I'm taking the sign of a larger number, so it's going to be a positive. But I'm still subtracting, so 4.2, should have added 2.9. Yeah, ignore that dash. So it's a positive 2.9. Good? Starting out easy? Too bad. Okay, next one. So 12 plus 8 times 14 divided by 8 minus 12 and your parentheses divide by 7. Okay, so parentheses first. Well, there's a lot going on inside the parentheses. So we go to exponents inside parentheses, no. So the next thing would be multiplying. Okay, so multiplying and dividing left to right. Okay, so shortcut to this, if you have a multiply and a divide left to right, and you have two of the exact same numbers, okay, you can cancel each other out, okay, because it's really going to, you're going to go 8 times this, which is going to give you a big number, but then divide it by 8, so it really undoes the 8 times. Yeah. Okay, so shortcut to this, you're just going to cross these off because the times and the divide undo each other because they are the same number, and it just gives you 1. Okay, so now inside the parentheses, we have 12 plus 14 minus 12. Okay, so now inside the parentheses, left to right. You could, yes, good. So 12 plus 14 minus 12, so you can do that again. Okay, so 14 divided by 7, so now we're going to have, yeah. Okay, so opposites of each other get rid of it. Okay, next one. 52. Parentheses inside of parentheses. Okay, so 6 parentheses, -6, minus, and then a parentheses, -4, end your parentheses, end your parentheses. And then a -6, parentheses, -4, minus, parentheses, -2, end your parentheses, end your parentheses. Okay, so when you have parentheses inside of parentheses, you work at the innermost part first before you go outwards, okay? So if I'm looking at this one right here, there's nothing inside it that I can do, but now coming outside of it, here is our multiplication, okay? Because now we're working with this set of parentheses. So we already had one like this, so the double negative is going to change to a positive. Okay, and that drops that parentheses. Okay, so now I have a negative 6 plus 4 that's inside that parentheses that we've simplified down, so that would give me a negative 2. Okay, then that's simplified. Now on the outside, when that number is next to it, it means to what? Multiply. So 6 times a negative 2 is going to give me a negative 12. Okay, now we're going to work with the right side, doing the same steps, just this side. Okay, so these double negatives are going to change to a positive. So now inside the parentheses, I have a negative 4 plus 2, with a negative 6 on the outside. So a negative 4, that's going to give me a negative 2. Times a negative 6 gives me a positive 12. And then that final left to right is going to be what? 0. All that work for that. Good. Okay. Next order of operations. So 450 divided by 5 times 9 divided by 3. Okay, so this order of operations inside the parentheses, you can't cross cancel like we did before where you had multiply and divide. So you're going left to right inside the parentheses. So 9 times 5 is 45. And then you're going 45 divided by 3. This was 45. And now we're dividing it by 3, which gives me 15. Okay, now we go left to right. So you're 450 divided by 15. Good. Okay. Good. So multiply and divide left to right, add and subtract left to right. Okay, exponents now. This tended to be the one that was missed quite a bit on the placement test. I think it was just a tad bit longer, but. Okay, so 4 plus 7. So order of operations, we do the parentheses first. So we're going to go 4 plus 7, which is going to give me 11. So now we're at this. Okay, so parentheses. Now we go to exponent. So we're going to take 11 to the second power. It's not 11 times 2, it's 11 times 11. Now, we're done with this. Okay, so we're done with parentheses, we're done with exponents. Now we go to multiplication. So we're going to go 121 times the 2. So you should have got 242. And then adding your 6, so you get 248. Okay, so common mistake that I saw, I don't even know if it was your guys' placement test, it might have been the integrated placement test, is people were adding this and then times it times that. Okay, so make sure you're following the order of operations and what the 2 is actually attached to. So don't go 2 times 11 and get 22 and then take it to an exponent. You got to do the exponent first. The exponent's attached to the parentheses. Okay. Almost done. Good old fractions. Whatever. Okay, adding and subtracting fractions, you have to have what? Common denominator. What is my common denominator? These. Right, 24. Because you could go 6 times 8 and make it 48, but then you're going to have to reduce. So 24. So 6 times 4, which means I have to, whatever, I multiply the bottom by, I have to multiply the top by. So times 3, times 3. So now I have a negative 4 over 24. And then a negative 15 over 24. Okay. Now our signs are the same, because I have a negative 4 and a negative 15. So I'm going to add and take the sign of larger number, so 15 being my larger number, so it's going to be a negative what? 19. And just double check when you have those to see if you can reduce them in the end, which we can't. Two more. Do we need common denominators with this one? No. Multiply and divide, you don't need common denominators. Okay, what? I heard somebody say it.
Keep dot flip.
Keep dot flip. So we keep the first one. We dot this one, which means multiplication, and now you're doing the reciprocal. Okay, flipping it. And then if you notice, simplify. A top number with a bottom number. Otherwise, when you multiply 6 times 14 and get a big number, you might not recognize that you need to simplify that down. Okay? So 7 can go into 14 how many times? 2 times. Okay, so now we are simplified because there's no other numbers down at the bottom to go into the ones at the top. So 6 times 2 would give me 12, and then 1 times -1 is -1. That's an improper fraction, so that would make it
-12.
okay, good. Make sure you reduce them if you can, or change them into mixed numbers if they could be simplified. Okay, I think this is our last one. Okay, so that's 7 plus parentheses -3, and then on the bottom that's a -4 minus 8. That's not a 9. So that's a -4 minus 8. And then in the other bracket it's 16 plus parentheses -32 over 9 minus 7. Okay, so brackets are just like parentheses. You're going to solve what's inside the parentheses first. Okay, here we have inside the parentheses fractions. So when you're doing it, it really doesn't matter. Just make sure you're simplifying the numerator together and then the denominator. And then if you can simplify it at that point, then do that. Otherwise, just leave it as a fraction because you might be multiplying it times another fraction. Okay, so we're simplifying the numerator first. So 7 plus a -3 is going to give me 4. Then on the bottom, you're going to have a -12. Okay. If you can reduce it because then there's smaller numbers to simplify it down. Okay, so I'm going to go change that to a -1/3. Okay. Another one, 16 plus a -32.
16.
Okay. And then 9 minus 7, 2. So that would make it a -8. Okay. Nothing to simplify, right? Because a 3 can't go into the 8s. The 2 brackets are next to each other, so that would mean what? Times. Okay, so you're really just timesing these guys, so you just would go straight across. So a -8 over a -3, which is the same as 8 over 3, right? Negative over negative. Simplify this down. 3 can go into 8. 2, which is 6, right? And 2/3. So 2 left over. So make sure you come out this. Okay. Okay. That was our last one. Okay, so these are your notes. When do I check your notes? So don't toss them. I don't know if you feel like you're going to need to look these up. You probably remember this. This is algebra review. But if you need to, you can refer back to it when you go do or try it. Some of you may or may not need it. Okay. So first thing, so due today, by the end of class, I'm going to print the report out. Is that multiple choice? So you're just going to get on, and if you already know your computers are slow, go back to the computers. Don't be wasting 5-10 minutes for it to load. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. They're attempting to work on this stuff, but multiple choice. It's on the classroom. So go on the Google Classroom.